Hello, hello, hello. Happy Monday, final Monday of August. So, how is everyone doing? Good morning, Patrick. Good morning, PMG. Good morning, Tony. Good morning, Jacob. Good morning, Christoph. Good morning, people hiding in the background. So, oh, good morning, Anissa. So, we got a sort of a busy economic week, especially backloaded as earnings season's winding down. We have some potential bottoming patterns in the equities. So, we're going to keep an eye on that, looking for a pause in the dollar, pause slash potential pullback. So, which could boost things like gold a little more and silver. So we shall see. It could be very interesting. Good morning, Royal Palms. Been missing you. Work is that caught up in the morning. When will you be evening streams again? We'll see how things are unwinding in September. Uh, there's too much going on right now. Hey, Eric. So, like even this afternoon, but like between 1 and 4 is a nightmare for me. So that's where, and if I can't do it properly, I don't want to put out improper information or don't. I'd rather not have something out there than put out stuff that I haven't had time to dedicate. And I prep for this for quite a while. It's part of my morning prep, anyways, but I want to make sure I'm getting all the information out there that's proper. And, I occasionally make mistakes and, Christoph finds patterns I missed. But, you got to do it right or just don't do it. That's so once I can do it correct and I have some time again, then we'll launch them back up. Thank you for asking. All right. Today, Dallas Fed Manufacturing Index, and then your bill and note auctions, so very minor. Tomorrow, home price, case shower home price, JOLTS job openings, consumer confidence, Dallas Fed services. But then we start getting into Wednesday. Wednesday, besides your early morning mortgage stuff, what do we have? We got the GDP second estimate for Q2. We got the PCE related to quarter over quarter. That's the quarter over quarter GDP PCE prices. And so then the second estimate on that on the core and the headline number. Consumer spending, GDP sales, pending home sales, and crude numbers. Thursday. So Wednesday really kicks it off. Thursday. Hold on, allergies. We have the other PCE numbers. These are the more important ones. PCE prices month over month and year over year. Core pre-PCE. We also have jobless claims, as always, on Thursdays. But these are the big numbers to watch. Now, Powell, based off of his speech on Friday, which was mostly a rehash of the last speech at the last Fed meeting. But it looks like September, unless we get a lot of shocking jumps in inflation, September will be a pause, and then we'll take a look at that. But it looks like either November or December is pricing in, especially November's pricing in one more hike. We got Collins speaking on Thursday, Chicago PMI, and then Friday, non-farm payrolls. Non-farm payroll Friday, September 1st. Also remember, for people in the U.S., the following Monday, so a week from today, is Labor Day. All right. So the futures markets are shortened and the equities are closed. So keep that in mind. But we have non-farm payrolls rounding out the week, then ISM numbers, ISM manufacturing numbers, and the global manufacturing PMI numbers. So starting Wednesday, really kicking off a busy economic week. Let's see what it looks like pre-market. Pretty much a bounce. A lot of the mega caps bouncing. Not a lot of red there. Healthcare, medical care facilities, that's about it. Group scanners, let me just do a quick refresh. Consumer cyclical comm services technology leading it, so it looks like to be a risk on day, as the talking heads like to say. And we've pulled back. We've pulled back to the bottom of the rotation zone on the weekly. We'll take a look at that. Here's your Fed watch. So only a 20% odds of a hike in September at this point, but November 1st up to 47, close to 48. So what does this look like? Pause, hike, and then a cut back down in January to where we sit now, and then pausing again at where we sit now through June until May, and then cut in June. We'll see how that ends up this week with some of the key numbers coming out. Fear and greed still in neutral mode. All right. Good morning, Sterling. In terms of earnings, really nothing today. Tomorrow we got NIO, Best Buy, Big Lots. After the close, we got HP Enterprise, HP, just the core HP box. So Hewlett Packard's always interesting. Wednesday, nothing much in the morning, but after the close, we got Salesforce is the big one. Thursday, we got Dollar General and Campbell's are the big ones I'll be watching. Broadcom after the close, Lululemon, which is always an interesting one also. But as you see, and Dell, VMware. But you see really winding down earnings season. So not much here that's market moving. Not much there that's really going to shake the markets. All right. So we had a follow-through little bounce on Friday. We have a little potential double bottom in the S&P. We have here, let me show you here. So what I'm keeping an eye on. So the 3-week pullback last week, did not break below the weekly rotation zone, trying to rotate up. If we bring this onto the daily now, first you can see this is the peak for the potential double. Would also confirm a rotation move up. So I'm sorry, the chart's a little cluttered here, but spiking down yesterday or on Friday, really nice to the minor harmonic levels to find the base here. So I can pull those off now. Other than that, I'm watching today 44.40 going into the open. We start getting above that, and that's what I'm watching on the closing basis for today. Because if we follow through above that, next harmonic cluster about 44.56, right where the top of the daily rotation zone. If we close above that, that takes it to neutral in the rotation zone from the bearish pullback. And then I will be watching for over the next couple days for the double to trigger. I mean, theoretically, if we had a strong day today, it could trigger even tomorrow. That's 44.8550 on a closing basis. And then where could that take us? That could take us back. The next key level is a close of about 45.28, because then we could start focusing on a return to the highs from July going into the beginning of September. These might never trigger, but that's what I'm watching for. If we do roll over today, I'm watching Friday's close of about 44.15 area, and then major supports coming in at 43.85. But I'm expecting we got daily cycles at the top, but weekly cycles turning up. So we could see some upwards pressure also if the dollar does pause or pull back. I'll take a look at that in a bit, Sterling. NASDAQ, you also have a potential double bottom. The trigger point for that is 15,418. If we look at the weekly on the NASDAQ, we have the same sort of setup. Okay, 3-week pullback into the rotation zone. Last week setting up a bottom, and now we're going to watch for follow-through. So again, 15,418. Today, I'm watching. We're right against the 50% harmonic right now, 15,085. On a closing basis, I'm watching 15,168 area. We get above there, I'll be watching then for the next major area. If we close above 15,168, would be 15,336. And then possibly trigger on a closing basis, 15,418. I'm using the conservative targets, okay, on this, but those targets could take us back to this high area from the end of July. Also, I'll be focusing mainly on the first target coming in at 15,734 and then 15,892. Why? Because they are within the move that started. The final target is within the wicks. On a rollover play, would be focusing on if we get any weakness this morning. Friday's close 14,980 roughly, and then a very key level is 14,870, and then it'd be Friday's low. Morning, Alan. No problem. You're running late. Thank you for taking the time to tune in. The Dow, which this was a very sloppy, you see the harmonic here, we spiked down below on Friday. I can take those off right now, but this did trigger last night. It triggered a little mini double. We just hit the first target, this 34,550 area. Next two targets, 34,625, 34,7. That's what I'm watching on the Dow. There's no bigger double. And then the next key area, that 34.7 is where the rolling over 50 is coming in. And then the top of the rotation zone is coming in at 34,780 area. So that's overall what I'll be watching on a closing basis. And that would take us into a clear path move with the next major target being 35,150. You remember, you can also put up your harmonics to help fine tune stuff. And that 35,150 is right by the 62.5, which is very key. So that breakdown level, that's really what the Dow, even on a bounce, has to get to. The intermediate level into this clear path move I'd utilize is about 34,950, which is the 50% harmonic. So that's the roadmap to the upside. Rollover again would be Friday's close, 34,375 area. Then there's major support coming in about 34,100. Russell, we have a mini double bottom in the 200 area. Need a close of 1884 roughly. First target 1906, 1918, 1929 to 1930. So that's what I'm keeping an eye on right there. There's going to be some substantial resistance right before the potential double trigger, but that's what I'm watching going in there. A rollover play again would be Friday's close. 1858 roughly, and then major support area 1850. VIX is holding this elevated range, but I'm going to be watching to see if we start breaking below about 1545, 1550, because then that'll start me in more bullish mode. And then if we start dropping below about 1485, that will be continued, and I'll really start focusing on some of these bigger plays going into the beginning of September. The DAX, yes, we have a little mini potential double. Would need a close above 15,935. Target 16,100 roughly, 16,200, 16,280 are the target areas. All right, again, that would also take it, if this triggered, it would take it above the daily rotation zone. The DAX is really flattening out, and that would just take us back into a consolidation. Not anything that's targeting new highs in the DAX yet. The notes, the 10-year notes, you can see, again, against the rotation zone, so the lower probability double. But if that were to trigger on a close above 109.31.5, could potentially take us to 110.27, 110.28 area. How does that look on that would just take us to the weekly rotation zone. So going to be keeping an eye on that. There is no mini double top in the yield. So the key areas on the yield would be if we really break below about 4, that'd be interesting, a 14 handle on the yield. 4.15, and then would be looking at right around 4.08, and then right around 4 back to 4. The 10-2s really collapsed with Jackson Hole last week. Remember, we almost came to that final target in the double, but with this now, I'm watching to see how we react down here, and from a retracement standpoint, watching to see if we close back below about minus 85 basis points. Also, watching for a roll, or we're against major resistance. Yes, we did break out of the channel, but we're still in a key resistance area with dailies. We've got some waning momentum, some divergences, cycles trying to roll over, and weeklies at a top. So we could get at least a pausing slash pullback into the rotation zone at least. We could easily backfill to C103. What would that do? Could be interesting then. Crude still hanging out. We have this very sloppy head and shoulders. Still hasn't gone anywhere from that. At this point, it's also a flagging pattern, a pullback flagging pattern. But I can't get into anything more bullish until we get really a close above about 82.15 yet. But speaking of stuff I am watching, I mentioned last week, I'm watching for the bottom with gold. As long as we don't really get a close below about 1914, I'm going to be watching for that bottoming pattern. We start breaking above 1955, especially with a dollar pullback. 1970, a close then above. Let's see. Let's really flip this around and see the key closing level about 1975. Puts me in short-term bullish mode for a retest of the highs from the end of July. And then the bigger pattern back here is in a close back above 2016. So those are the key things I am watching for in the short term. Also, I'm watching silver's been a lot stronger reaction back up. So I'm watching for some continued follow through on silver to the upside. It closed last week above the 62.5 and now just basing sideways. So we'll be watching for a retest of the mid to end of July highs. Copper does not have a great pattern just yet. But if we do break above about 382, I'll be looking for more upside in that. To 10-year, JGB still holding the rotation zone. So nothing's really changed here. The US dollar, Japanese yen, still watching to see if it can push back to this 147.30. The only thing that would shift that is a close back below 144.50. Euro trying to put in a bottom, at least a short-term bottom against this channel and the 200 area. So this is technically just a very sloppy mini, but we start getting above about 108.50, then I'll also watch for a continued rally in the euro for a bit longer. Again, I don't know how strong a bounce it will be, but I've been watching for a bounce. The pound, we'll be watching for a bounce and a rollover play in there. We should actually, once on the next major rollover, take out the 200. The spiders and the Qs. The spiders have a little mini potential double. So keep an eye on that. That's a close above 445.22. The next key level I'll be watching on a closing basis is 449.53. Why? We get a close above that, it would shift the probability 87.5 rule, and as well as we'd be in the double. Key area first that I'm focusing on is this 452 area because we have the cluster. So I'm not going to ignore the 75 in the second target of that double. And then the third target area, look, we have the 87.5, the final double target, and a gap left behind. But that only comes into play if we first get that close above 445.22. On any rollover play, it's still 440. Roughly the closing area from Friday, and then a major support level of about 436.90 to 437. On the Qs, you also have a mini double. It needs a close above 372.74. On the next key on a closing basis is 375.50. Do not ignore 379.70 to 380 and then 380.36 to 380.82. Those are all my major upside targets. Remember, we still have some gaps. Rollover play would be to Friday's close. First, I'm going to keep an eye on Friday's high, 365.74, and then the close, 364.02. If we do pull back, major support coming in about 361. Tesla, we had the confirmed but not triggered double turning into the triple. Triple, I'm watching now for a stronger recovery play. A little stronger recovery play in Tesla, especially if we break above about 445. I mean, 245. If we break above 245, target 255 to 255.80 is the first target. And then if we get into this area, then I'll be using about 262.50 and then 266.70. NVIDIA, after the big reversal from last week, on any bounce play up, I'm looking for 477 and then about 490. It's really got to hold. If we close below 450, then I'm going to be watching for another continued pullback in NVIDIA. All right. So that's where we stand. I know Sterling had... I just want to check in on Apple real quick. There's no double in Apple. I just had to remind myself, but I'm going to be watching above 182.50. So if you're watching Apple also, if we get above 182.50, 185.10, and then we go into this key gap left behind, but it'd be 188.38 before that fills. Sterling, what do you want me to take a look at? XLV. XLV is, it's, let me take a quick look at the higher time frame. And yeah, this is one side of a top. No, it's still good. It needs that daily close below. See, this is going to be of a lower probability though, because yes, you have this move, but this was really choppy in here, and you have the second and third targets. Oh, boy, this would be a tight one for me. I'd try to find a better pattern, but if it does trigger, I'd really be focused on this 130 area on the first pullback and be very aggressive and stop lowering. Other than that, if it rotates back up to this 135, 136 area, it's invalidated. HE, Hawaiian Electric, is big gap up on their de-energized power line comment. Let's see here. Again, I hate these kind of plays because you're trying to pick a bottom on a story stock, but that's your key thing. You need to close above 1420. And that would be, again, the bounce into the rotation zone, so it's a lower probability area. But that's what I'd be watching. Again, it's a story stock, and, you know, the Maui story stock, so it is a very risky play. SE, then I got to wrap this up. C Limited, you can, haven't looked at that since it completed the double. Since it completed the double. Wow. Oh, that is ugly. I'll be watching for a more substantial bottoming pattern in here, but you're trading into some major resistance. So, I mean, if there's any... Wow. I mean, anything would be aggressive here. Anything would be aggressive here because it's a 30... About 39.50 to 40.60 is a key resistance zone. And there's not a strong... I'd be watching for, if there's any bounce for a rotation back down to form a stronger, at least intermediate bottoming pattern. But that's about it. I wouldn't... I mean, you'd have to be super nimble to try to trade this because you're going into some major resistance. With that, I got to wrap it up. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in, and I shall see everyone back tomorrow. Bye. Watch for a new podcast to drop this morning. I'm going to get it posted in a little bit. So if you're looking for other stuff to do after it quiets down after the open, watch out for the new podcast, and I'll talk to everyone later. Bye for now.